Hello there. Welcome to this episode of the Poultry Keepers Podcast. Today, our hosts will conclude their discussion of grow out secrets, what your young flock is telling you. So let's join John, Mandelyn, and Rip as they pick up where they left off last week.
Mandelyn, I have a question for you.
Ooh.
How much attention do you pay to activity level? Are they alert, energetic, foraging? Is that important to you?
Oh, absolutely. So when I pull them out of those brooders at about 5 weeks old and I set them up into a grow pen, the very first thing I expect them to do is immediately bounce around, play, take a dust bath, scope out the feed and water situation, and totally be enjoying the new freedom of space because now they have a 9-foot ceiling. They can do whatever they want. So another 3-4 weeks after that, I start introducing them to the outdoors at 8, 9, 10 weeks old. And that first day is pretty normal for them to huddle in the doorway and go, that's scary out there. But the next day when I open that door up, I expect at least one of them to be brave, and I expect its favorite best friends to go out with them and start exploring and doing their little chicken thing. Any of them that hang back and they don't want to do that, and we're into the 3rd or 4th day, then I can go ahead and stick a call leg band on that one and know it just doesn't have the gumption I need. It's not out there doing what they're supposed to be doing. This bird is more passive, and there might be some future breeding ramifications from using that bird. So I won't. I want the ones with the get up and go.
One thing, and we haven't touched on it yet, so I guess this is probably a pretty good place here. But when you're raising chickens, and this is something the three of us have experienced personally, that when you change your nutrition, it can actually shape, to a certain extent, the growth of your flock. All three of us have gone from a okay feed to a wow feed that's just packed with nutrition. John's even making his own. And y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't nutrition have a remarkable effect on our birds?
Yes. You'll start noticing a trend of more of them doing what they're supposed to be doing, not just a little handful of them on feed. But when you give all of them the actual correct nutrition, you're going to probably see a reduced rate of call because more of them are getting what they need to go out and do their chicken thing.
And don't just change their feed them grit too. That makes a powerful difference.
It really does. Well, and using the right size grit and making sure they always have it and that they're uptaking it, you can shave off 20% of your feed consumption because they're able to metabolize and digest it better.
Pays for itself instantly.
And then my next little science project I want to try to do for grow outs, actually doing a way better job of tracking consumption levels of a popular feed versus a higher end feed, because the difference in consumption can be as much as 20%. And in some cases, I think it's a little more than that. And the feed doesn't cost twice as much, but you could save almost twice as much in your consumption rate.
And produce a lot less manure.
I wish I could convey what Mandelyn just said better to so many poultry keepers, because when I start talking about switching to a higher quality feed, the first response I get is, it costs more.
A lot of times it's only $5 more per bag.
It costs a little bit more,
but you instantly regain that cost.
We know that
on better production.
We just got to figure out how to do a better job of convincing new folks that expensive isn't expensive.
No. Buy the best and only cry once.
Back-end cost, not just the upfront cost. What's the back-end cost and versus your savings versus your result?
Also, back-end costs increase manure production, increase nitrogen, increased ammonia. All these extras that come by feeding a low quality diet that affect the health of the chicken and what comes out the back end. You give them grit, you're going to realize more return on what goes in.
Yeah.
You're going to pass out less unprocessed.
And you can over feed high quality feed too. By that I mean, I've seen some people that have started feeding game bird grower, game bird starter, game bird breeder. Some of that stuff's 30% protein. Our birds do not need that amount of protein. You're wasting money.
It just comes out the back end after 24%. All that extra protein just comes right out the back.
Wasted. Totally wasted.
I brooded my quail and my turkey poults together because they need that protein level. The Chanticleers are in a separate brooder. They're right above them, but they're right now at about a 21.5 with, of course, some really nice supplements. But I'm able to make my own feed on the fly, grind my grain, and make it exactly the way I want it. But you can absolutely go to the feed store and get a bag of turkey and game bird starter if you have turkeys and game birds. But I wouldn't use them on large fowls. We're pushing them too hard. The renal systems can't handle that excess protein.
And there's that myth out there floating around that if you want them to grow good, give them a lot of protein. But truth be told, it's not actually the protein.
No.
It's the amino acids.
Yeah,
They're
you're giving them
the wrong line item on the bag. It's the amino acids.
You're basically giving your birds type 2 diabetes.
I wish they would put amino acids, the first two things, on the feed tag. I really do. But you're exactly right. People, and I did it. So I get it. I understand.
We all did it. Back in the beginning.
Focused on protein.
And it doesn't matter. 16% layer, 16% layer. I'll take whatever is the cheapest. Oh, that stuff on the pallet 6 months old? Yeah, you want $5 a bag? I'll take all of it. Wrong answer.
Wish more people would pay attention to the amount of vitamins and minerals in their feed, because that too can make a significant difference.
And check since you're looking at your tags anyways, check the manufacture date or the milling date. Use as fresh as possible. Don't buy anything more than 90 days old. Certainly. You need to show that to your store manager and say, hey, you need to send this back to the mill because this is expired.
And some dates can be hard to read. It's not like a simple month, day, and year. For example, some may use a number like 25-330. And what that means, it was made in the year 2025 and the 330th day of the year.
Yep.
They do their best to hide things from us, I swear. It makes me nuts.
I know our local composter has actually worked out a deal to help some of these people with their expired feed and moldy feed this time of year. They've been getting a lot of bags of moldy feed, and they just put them in the digester along with everything else. Unfortunately, a lot of people have learned the hard way that the health problems that come with feeding older or poor quality feed are very detrimental and can wipe out a flock if you're not careful.
That and keeping it dry and preventing mold, because mold is a big problem. And that includes cleaning your feeders and checking the bottom of your feeders. Because I know in some of my pens, I'll temporarily use those cheap plastic gravity feeders, but the lip on them creates spillage because it's too shallow. So I'll put it inside of a bigger feed pan to give it a higher side. And the birds are going to still kick it out into that other pan, but I need to do my job of picking up everything and checking the bottom of that bigger pan I use to make sure it's not growing mold and getting crusty underneath that feeder.
And if you've got an auto watering system, you should be flushing it regularly.
Oh, yeah.
Making sure there's no algae slime growing inside of it. Jeff is famous for saying, if you wouldn't drink out of your poultry drinker, fix it.
And then you have people who comment and say, they drink out of mud puddles every day. It's okay. And that's where they pick up parasites and coccidia too.
Sure. My dog does too when we're walking along the side of the road. She'll also drink out of a toilet.
We would too, and then deal with the bellyache that came from it.
Yeah. Hey, this gets us to a good segue point to talk about developing the ability to identify problems early on.
Yes.
Look for things like sudden growth drops. Are they doing really good, and then wham, all of a sudden they just stop growing? Are your birds?
Or even if they had a negative growth rate to where
Oh,
they're
yeah.
gaining and then boom, they lost weight.
Yeah.
But they're
Yeah.
at an age where they shouldn't have.
Look for things like labored breathing or respiration imbalances. Has the feather stopped
Sneezing.
growing? That's something that's often overlooked because people don't understand the growth rate that they should have on their bird's feathers. Behavioral clues like they're just hanging out all by themselves. That's not normal
Mhm.
for a chicken.
Yeah, that's
No.
never a good sign.
Are they disinterested in feed?
Yeah. The cockerels, something I've noticed, and I was a little concerned at first. A cockerel, after their normal little establishing their pecking order thing, will usually go off in a corner and sulk for a little bit, maybe a day, as he got his butt handed to him by the granddaddy cockerel. But he should come back and fall into line. If he stays out of the circle for more than a day or two, that's when you need to start being worried. But just running in and scooping up a cockerel because he just lost his pecking order fight and putting him in a pen and rehabilitating him and then putting him back out in the yard is probably just going to incur the exact same episode all over again.
It might end up on a repeat of pull them
Yes.
out, treat them, put them back. They do it again. Pull
Yeah.
them out, treat them, put them back. They do it again.
Yeah.
It's repetitive if you keep pulling birds out because they don't handle reintroduction that
No.
well.
So if you've got a bird that's being constantly picked on, if you pull them out, don't ever put them back in. You pull them out, they go to the freezer, I say, or somewhere else.
If they still have more time to grow, the one getting thoroughly bullied, usually I'll just drop them into the next younger batch.
And I don't have a problem so much with that, or at all, let's be honest. But I've seen it. And that's part of the choosing for temperament. And you don't want a little wimpy bird that gets his behind kicked and doesn't have the natural ability to defend the flock when it needs to happen.
Yeah,
Just as you don't
watching
want a
them
bully either.
when there's a predator alarm, pay attention also to when those boys stand up, look around, and they're ready. Or do
Oh,
they
yes.
hightail it into cover first before even thinking about anyone else?
Uh-huh. So just the other day, I was sitting in here and it was a strange warm day. So the kitchen window was open and I heard my rooster's little chuck alarm call. So I went to the kitchen and I looked out and this rooster went and he ran to where the furthest hen was away and put himself between him and the predator that was out in the field. They were still on the inside of the electric fence, so I wasn't really worried. And then waited for all the hens to go back into the hen house before he went back in. And I went, yeah, good rooster.
Exactly.
That's what you want to see.
That's what I want to see.
Let's talk about the things that a lot of people don't want to talk about. But let's talk about culling. Culling is not
Eat more
punishment.
chicken.
Look at it as flock refinement. When I'm sitting around watching birds, I'm looking for things that I want to see stay in my flock. And if a bird doesn't show me anything, then it's removed. Okay. Now, whatever you do with it, whether you eat it, whether you give it away, whether you sell it, that's a decision that you have to make. But if it's not going to help move your flock forward, don't keep it. What are
Plus,
some
you
of the
need some
things?
breakfast eggs.
Yeah. What are some of the things that you look for when you're culling birds, Mandelyn?
I look for what you said, like the value to the breeding program. Is this bird going to help me? Is what I look at first. And if I feel on the fence about it, I might give them some more time to grow. If I've got any questions about how's the tail going to finish, what's the final wing set going to be, how deep did the chest get, how much more growth potential does this bird need to tell me if it's breeding quality or not, and then making the decision on if it's going to be good for my program or not. But I also am looking at what's negative about the bird. What is the worst feature that this bird has? And do I have the flock ingredients available to do some compensation mating to correct that? Or is it a serious enough issue that I just right in the freezer, without any further thought? So it just depends on that individual bird's merit or what I might have to breed up to make that bird better through the offspring. It's really bird by bird. Like, I don't have a blanket policy. It's just bird by bird.
I'm
John, what
basically
about
looking
you?
for
What's your thought?
any sign of a structural or genetic fault as the bird is growing out is a disqualification. I know it's a numbers game. I know that if I hatch out 100 birds, if everything goes really good, I'll have 10 that are good enough to carry forward and 90 birds for the freezer.
Oh, yeah. Out of 100 birds, I already know I'm eating 50. I already know that.
Yeah. Or I
That's
can
good.
donate the right out of the chute any chicks that aren't destined for breeding. At the end of 3 weeks, I can take all those and just integrate them into somebody else's flock, and they can raise them out and put them in their freezer. And I don't need to carry that feed bill myself, and I can just concentrate my time and attention. That's something that we just can't buy more of on the birds that I intend to keep.
Another thing that a lot of folks don't take into consideration the way they should is the environmental factors in grow out success. And the number one at the top of my list is overcrowding. Give your birds room to grow and show you what they got. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. They need space. They need good conditions. They need clean conditions to really have the best odds of becoming their best bird possible. And if you crowd them, you're going to have problems with control freaks not letting the other ones eat. Now you're going to have a really uneven growth rate.
Oh,
You're
from
going to have
starting? No.
even the female development, they can be competitive with each other. So one thing I do in grow out is I do separate the genders by about 8 weeks old. I'm hoping to have males separate from females because the way that they develop past that, the boys are way more focused on their pecking order. The girls can have problems if the boys try to involve them. It's just easier to split your genders and get a more even growth rate with less competition. So long as you don't overcrowd them. Just never do that. The poop piles up too fast. They start getting stressed. You're setting yourself up for failure with respiratory problems if you're not keeping your cleanliness where it needs to be. And overcrowding just makes everything that could go wrong worse. End of rant.
No, it was a good rant. It was a good rant. And to our listeners, I would encourage you to adjust what you're doing based on what, and by that I mean, do you need to modify your feed? Do you need to change the spacing? By that I mean, do you have enough feeder space so everybody can eat in peace and not squabble?
The internet says 1 inch of feeder space per bird, and I feel like that needs to be more like 10.
That's really crowding it.
I would ideally like to have little partitions or dividers in between
About
the
a bird
birds. So
wide?
an open trough system about a bird wide, so each bird can stand and eat what's in front of them without competition on either side.
And that's one of the reasons I like trough style feeders is because birds can feed on both sides. So you put a trough style feeder and you just double the amount of feeder space you got.
You could partition it, and that would become the anti-roost device, too. Those partitions would prevent roosting if they were triangle and fit on both sides. Oh, it's in my brain.
Last time I tried that, they roosted up there anyways and ended up pooping in their food. But my Chanticleers love to roost, so the next rendition is going to be the wire with the spinning conduit over the wire as an anti-roost device. Because it was a solid board the last time and it didn't work out. So we're going to do the 3/8 inch steel.
The idea
cable
that popped into my brain makes me want to go out and get a 3D printer.
Oh my goodness. All righty then.
Not today.
What?
worse to do.
I've got some files that I can send you if you want to get a printer. I don't, but I'd have some things that I need made.
Today I have to go through my whole grow out rotation because I've complicated my grow out process. So since I emptied out a pen yesterday by processing the birds that were in that pen, now I get to muck it out, set it up, adjust everything for the size of bird going in there. Then I get to go through my brooders, sort for gender, sort for quality, start refilling pens, clean all those brooders, go into the hatch room, sort through all those chicks, move them to the other brooders, to then muck and clean and scrub, to then empty my incubator of what hatched yesterday. The whole rotation I have today to do it.
You touched on an important point that we haven't brought up in a little while, Mandy, and that's when you're resetting for the age of the bird that's incoming so that the feed and water is at the appropriate height for the bird.
That appropriate height does wonders on keeping stuff clean.
It does. And makes your life easier.
And reduces waste.
I just start to say, saves you money on feed too.
Yeah, you want that feeder and the drinker right at the height of their back.
So they
Whether
have to
it's
just
propped up on
slightly
block or hanging, you want it right there at the back level.
Yeah. So they got an easy reach, but their head has to be in the feeder or the trough.
Absolutely.
And these are all very important, but incremental gains in the process. And if you've been a listener to the show for over a year now, maybe you're at this point and ready to make these minor incremental improvements. That's what I like to call them.
Let's drop back to record keeping again. It's something I keep going back to because it's something that not very many
so
folks
important.
do a fine job of. But you can use all this data that you're hopefully tracking to fine-tune your breeding program. It can help you decide who stays and who goes. If it comes down to it, it can help you adjust feed plans for next time.
To let you know what incremental change you should make next.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It can help you choose housing upgrades or say, hey, these birds are a little bit too crowded. Move them to an outside chicken tractor, whatever your system is. But most importantly, all this record keeping, the real payoff for me is that it helps to build a genetic line that thrives under your conditions. Don't go by what's in the book. Go by what you see, what you experience, and what your location is. But those records can really help build a genetic line. Don't believe me? Try it.
Unfortunately, I can expect different growth rates based upon what farm my chicks or even the unhatched eggs go to. I know how they're going to develop here because of my husbandry practices. Once they leave, things change. And if somebody contacts me 3 or 4 weeks later and says, hey, I'm only seeing this weight at this point, I can pull up my charts and say, you should be here. Okay, why? Are you using this protein level of feed at this point in time? Have you always had fresh, clean water available? And then we can look at the husbandry methods as to why they're not reaching the same growth potential I would expect them to have. But I do expect them to be a little bit lower, especially with a new breeder. With my birds, they're just not used to them. They're used to whatever they've had.
And just make it a practice to spend, 5 or 10 minutes daily, just
at least
paying close attention, what I like to call mindful watching of your flock. Observe them during feeding time, during perching, social interactions, laying, roosting. All of that can be very revealing to you what's going on with your bird.
I have a really good data collection story.
Okay.
Lay it on us.
A local friend of mine, she has 3 different genetic groups of birds. 2 of them are the same breed and then another breed. And her husband is a spreadsheet building wizard. So he came up with an evaluation sheet. So they take their kids out as a family, they go through and they sort their birds and they fill in an entire profile of each bird. They're looking at comb shape, they're looking at weight, they're looking at feathering, coloring. Everything about that bird has a line item on this evaluation sheet. So then they take that evaluation sheet and they build a profile under the band number for each bird. And then they have all of the growth history associated with that individual bird all the way back to day one. So then when a group of chicks come up to be 15, 16 weeks old, they have everything notated in that data. And he can build graphs to show trait by trait or genetic pool versus genetic pool. He can pluck gender out as a sorting feature. So if you want to know what your growth swing for each male was, he can sort that out and show a graph. And so he said the last time I saw them, they were picking the top performers. And I was like, whoa, what do you mean? How long have you been choosing only the top performers for growth rate? And he said, since we started. And I was like, how many generations into that are you? And he goes, for some of them, it's 2 generations and 3 generations. I was like, okay, you guys slow down on that to avoid too big. And instead, he pulled up that graph and I said, you want to be right here in the middle, slightly above, not your bottom, not your top. Now, use this fancy graph to figure out which birds you should even consider for breeding just because of their growth swing. And the data that he showed me, it was so colorful, detailed, and beautiful. I was so jealous that I haven't sat down to do it.
Yes. Just tell him that he needs to be looking at the +1 vector of his bell curve. That's where you want to be selecting from. Anybody who understands what we're talking about just goes, okay, yeah.
No, I've never seen better graphing on chicken growth, though, except commercial, professional stuff. But for a home flock,
oh my gosh,
beautiful.
Yes. This just reinforces what I've been told so many times by so many of the old true master breeders. Said that your best breeder prospects are from the center of the flock.
The most balanced, the most even.
Yes. Heterogeneity. Follow the bell curve. That's
just one final thought I want to share about records and their importance is if you will train yourself to look at each and every bird, each individual bird, as a living journal entry in your flock story. Take notes, read carefully, and write a future you're going to be proud of. Now, before we go, and we're getting close to we are at our hour here, I want to encourage all of our listeners to subscribe wherever you're listening to it. Is it on Apple? Is it on Spotify? Is it on YouTube, Amazon? Subscribe to get regular updates on our podcast. We have now started just this week adding bonus content on our website and as a podcast. I'm posting a full podcast episode every Tuesday and then some shorter blocks of material on Thursdays and Saturdays.
Nice.
So you want to be sure to gang in on that too, because some of the bonus content is stuff that we don't talk about on air. So don't miss out on that. And the website is www.poultrykeeperspodcast.com.
easy as that.
Easy peasy. So with that said, I hope each and every one of you have a spectacular week and you have fun observing your birds, hint, hint. But most of all, just keep doing what you're doing, keep doing things right, and you're going to have a success. So thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into monitoring your grow outs. Every successful flock starts with careful observation and purposeful decision making. Your young birds are telling you a story. Make sure you read it. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you in a week.